Good morning and welcome to Daily Red Devil for all of your latest Manchester United transfer news and talk. And as always, we're back with another massive show to bring you guys this morning. But before we jump into that, please do smash a like on the video. Please do subscribe to the channel, bottom right hand corner, and let's get straight on into it. So on the show this morning, we're of course going to be reacting to Manchester United's 1-0 victory against Fulham yesterday. Massive, massive result. And we will be discussing, has Bruno Fernandes saved Erik ten Hag's job? We will, of course, be talking about that. We'll also be talking about Manchester United's pursuit of a new right-back in the January transfer window. I'll be giving you all of the information, all of the stories that have come out in the last 24 hours around this potential signing. And we're also going to be having a bit of a conversation as a community about Antony and where we think we go from here with the Antony situation. Because for me now, Antony is a problem. I think he is. Now, I want to say this, there's lots of players in this team that are a problem, but we will talk about Antony specifically in a minute. But yeah, I think it's a conversation that definitely needs to be had. I was very supportive of Antony in the first season. I said it's his first year. I thought he did okay last season, but this season, I definitely think a conversation is warranted because it hasn't got any better. If anything, it's got a lot worse. But as always, get involved in the comment section, get involved in the live chat. Let me know your thoughts on everything we discuss on today's show. So I wanted to start the show off with something that I saw on Twitter yesterday. And you know what? I didn't believe it at first. I had to go and double check because when I say this to you, you're going to be shocked, I think. I think you're going to be shocked. So Manchester United, after 11 games this season, have, let me just double check. Let me just make sure I get my facts right. So this season, we've got 18 points out from our first 11 games. Okay? This time last year, we had 18 points. We're on exactly the same amount of points now as we were this time last season. And last year, what did we get? Top four? Well, we got third. We also won the FA Cup. Obviously, we can't get to we won the League Cup. We can't win the League Cup now because we're out of it. But we're still in the FA Cup. And obviously, we're still in the Champions League at the moment. So the reason I bring this into the show, obviously, there's a lot of panic. There's a lot of hysteria in the fan base. There seems to still be people calling for Erik ten Hag's head. And I just want to bring a little bit of level-headedness today. Because I think that Erik ten Hag is literally operating with his hands tied behind his back. Let me just say this to you now, right? This time last season, Erik ten Hag had a fully fit squad and he was on 18 points. This season, right? Are you ready for this, right? This fact. This is going to blow your head this morning. So this season so far, Manchester City have had 2 injuries. 2. Man United, 20 plus injuries already since the season started. 20. Man City have had 2. The reason I bring this in the show this morning is for us to be on the same amount of points this time last year, exactly the same, 18 points after 11 games played. But this time last season, we had a fully fit squad. You know, it was it was Varane, Martinez, Luke Shaw. You had Wan-Bissaka at right back. You had Casemiro. You know, all of these people were in the squad. All of them. This season, we haven't played that defence once, I don't think. Maybe the first game of the season, but for at least 10 of our games in the Premier League, it's been Varane, Martinez, Evans, Maguire, Dalot, Lindelof at left back, Reguilon. Like, it's been a complete mess. And that's not on Erik ten Hag. It isn't. And I think that for us to be on the same point total now as we were a year ago is okay. I can deal with that. I have no issue with that whatsoever. Kervin says, don't compare to last season. We won't get top 4. There are better teams this year than last year. I mean, you can't really think like that. You can't go into, life thinking like that. So last season, the difference between us and top 4 at this point in the season was 2 points, and this season it's 4 points. So teams are have got 2 points more. Liverpool are 4th, obviously with 23. I think it's too early to say, the season's over and all of this. It's 11 games into the season. The reason I brought this into the show is that people saying, Erik ten Hag this, Erik ten Hag that. For us to be on the same points total after 11 games now, I think is okay. I don't think it's good by any means, but considering all the injuries we have, I think that you do have to highlight these types of things, because I think just to say get Erik ten Hag out, I just don't really buy into it personally. Somebody says, please check the first place points. No problem. So at this point last season, Arsenal were on 30 points. And Man City are on 27. So technically, teams were doing better last year. Obviously, I know Liverpool and Chelsea were terrible last season. But yeah, so Man City are obviously top of the league. Tottenham could go top with 29 points. Arsenal were on 30 points at this point last season. So technically, the point total was actually higher last season for the top teams. So yeah. You know what? I think we've had actually a much more difficult run of fixtures this season than what we had last year. Like, if you look at the games we had last season, I think that was why there was so much outrage in the fan base, because some of the fixtures that we had issues with last season were a bit embarrassing, weren't they? You know, losing 4-0 to Brentford, that was obviously not good. You always expect, well, I don't want to say you always expect, because that sounds a bit like I'm being realistic, but you always expect when you go and play Man City for it to be a difficult game. And with the form we're in at the moment, and the form Man City are in, I would say that playing Man City at the moment, away from home, you're pretty much guaranteed to lose, aren't you? So losing to Man City away from home last season wasn't exactly a shock, was it? Let's be honest. Let's just have a look quickly. I just want to compare the games from last season to this season. So last year, right, our first game of the season was Brighton at home, which we lost. And then we played Brentford. This season, I think we had Brighton the first game. No, we had Wolves, didn't we? I'm just trying to compare the fixtures. So we had Wolves first game of the season, then we had Tottenham away, then Nottingham Forest, then Arsenal, then Brighton. I think our run of fixtures this season has been harder. I mean, we had Southampton last year, Leicester City. Who else do we have? Everton. Yeah, we had some easier fixtures to start the season with last year. The first 5 games were Tottenham, Arsenal and Brighton. All 3 of those teams are doing really well this season. So I think we need to give Erik ten Hag a bit of slack. I do think that if Erik ten Hag hadn't won that game yesterday, he would be in big trouble. I'm sticking by Erik ten Hag. I am. I don't. Obviously, you're entitled to your opinion. If you disagree with me, that's completely fine. Pig Teat says, I personally think Erik ten Hag is working miracles. No manager has been through this much drama. I mean, you're completely right there. You're completely right. The fact that, as I just said, he's had 20 injuries in his first team squad this season. He's had this Jadon Sancho situation. He's had the takeover going on. He's had, there's so much disruption at the club at the moment. And even when there isn't disruption, there is still a complete mess. So for there to be all of this background noise and for him to have the same amount of points as what we had last year, I think it's okay. I do. I don't think it's good, but I think it's okay. And I think it's, we need to give him a little bit more respect. And for those of you who want him out, I think you need to just really have a long, hard think about what the future would be without Erik ten Hag. And if you do want Erik ten Hag out, that's completely fine. Let me know in the comment section what your plan is. Who's the manager you're bringing in? What's the style of play we're going to implement? What players are they going to bring in that will play that style of play? Because people who just say Erik ten Hag out with no actual substance around it, no plan, I just think that's going to put us in a worse position. Obviously, this game against Copenhagen on Wednesday is absolutely massive. I think the whole mood in the fan base will change massively if we go away to Copenhagen on Wednesday night it is and beat them. I think Copenhagen are on 1 point. They're bottom of the group. I'm just double checking what we have. So on Wednesday, Bayern Munich play Galatasaray at home. So we can, obviously, crazy things happen in football, but I would be absolutely shocked if Bayern Munich don't beat Galatasaray at home. So that would put Bayern Munich up to 12 points, I think. So they'll have won all of their fixtures. In short, if we beat Copenhagen on Wednesday night, we will go second in the group. Then we play Galatasaray away from home. Again, as long as we don't lose that game, we would still stay second. If we drew it, we'd be on 7 points and they'd be on 5. And then all we'd have to do is either draw or win against Bayern Munich and we would be guaranteed to go through. So there's a realistic path to the next round of the Champions League here. We need to beat Copenhagen away. We need to not lose to Galatasaray away. And then we need to either draw or win against Bayern Munich. Now, I know that sounds very, very difficult. I get that. But I think this team can do it. I think they do have it in them. And the thing you have to remember is we're playing Bayern Munich at a good time. We're playing them the last game of the group. By that point, they'll have already qualified. They'll be top of the group. 100% they'll be top. No doubt about that. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I mean, if they beat Galatasaray on Wednesday night, I think they've already qualified, haven't they? They'll be on 12 points. We'd be on 6. Yeah, they'll qualify on Wednesday night if they beat Galatasaray, Bayern Munich. So I will imagine they'll play a lesser side when they come to Manchester United last game of the season. So hopefully we can at least get a draw against them, which should see us get through that group. And then that will be a completely different mindset then for the fans. I think I'm not by any means saying we're going to win the Champions League, but I would much rather us at least go through to the next round, not be in the Europa League, and then obviously see where we are. Milas says 2 points behind Newcastle is not bad with all the injuries we have played, and we have played every team in the top three. Exactly. We've played Man City, we've played Arsenal, and we've played Tottenham after 11 matches, and we're on 18 points. I don't think that's bad. And you know what, right? I think that this is Manchester United's level now. Whether you like that or not, I think that's just the reality. I think 18 points after 11 games, I think that's our level. I'm just working that out. So if we were to end the season how it is, right, based on the amount of points we've got so far, we would end the season on 62 points. Last season we got, let's have a look. Last season we got 75. So there's still a massive improvement to get to where we were last season. Last season, 71 points was what was needed to get top four, which was about right. It's usually around 70 points, isn't it? That needs to be the kind of goal, minimum 70 points. And I think we can do it. I do. The next Premier League game's against Luton at home. Unless an absolute disaster happens, I would be absolutely stunned if we don't beat Luton at home. Then we go and play Everton away from home. Again, I think we can get a result there. And then we've got Newcastle away from home, which I reckon will be probably the most difficult one out of all of those fixtures. Then we've got Chelsea at home, and then we've got Bournemouth at home. So in the next kind of 3 to 5 games, there's definitely some winnable matches coming up. And let's hope that, Luke Shaw should be back in the next couple of weeks. Obviously, Wan-Bissaka's back. Varane, I don't know what's going on with Varane. I don't know. Is there more happening than what we think? Is there maybe something going on behind the scenes with him? I'm not too sure. But yeah, as Comeback King says, Eric Ten Hag in all the way. Irvin says, I am Eric Ten Hag in, but let's focus to get top 5 this year. Yeah, I'd be happy with top 5. I'd be happy with top 6, I think, to be honest. And you know what? For me, the most important thing is that we start seeing more of a style of play. I don't think we really saw much of a style of play yesterday. I mean, we did, but it wasn't really an attractive style of play, was it? It was quite, hoof the ball long and hope for the best. Richie says, Eric Ten Hag's had to deal with the takeover, injuries, Ronaldo, Sancho, Greenwood, out-of-form players with bad attitudes. Name another manager who could deal with that and still achieve top 4. There you go. That's the comment of the chat there. And I think everyone needs to really, really remember that. What other manager has had to deal with what Eric Ten Hag's had to deal with? He's got his hands tied behind his back on its own, just with the Glazer ownership, no director of football, no CEO. I wanted to highlight this as well, actually, right? Talking about directors of football and the importance. Pep Guardiola, after the Manchester City game yesterday, where obviously Jeremy Doku had an absolute mad one. I think he scored 2 or 3 goals, got multiple assists. He came out after the game, Pep Guardiola, and he gave all of the credit to the director of football. I can't pronounce the guy's name, but Pep Guardiola ultimately said that, thank you. What's the guy's name? Let me try and pronounce it. Director of football. His name's Tixi Begristan. I've probably said his name wrong. I do apologise. Tixi Begristan. Let's go with that. And Pep Guardiola said, thank you so much to our director of football. He was the one who found the player. He was the one who identified him. He was the one who brought him in. And that just sums it up, right? Everyone says Pep Guardiola is this greatest manager of all time, but which obviously I think Sir Alex Ferguson is, but there's no doubt that Pep Guardiola is a good coach. He has good footballing ideas, but the people who are actually bringing in the players at Man City, it's not Pep Guardiola. It's, this director of football who's been there ever since Abu Dhabi took over. This one man and his team around him who are identifying the right types of players, bringing them in. And when you actually look at Man City's recent signings, how many of them have flopped? I can't think of many, to be honest. I mean, Jack Grealish, I don't think he's a flop. I think he's done very well. Who else have they got? I mean, Gvardiol, he looks good. Akanji, Ake, Rodri, like De Bruyne, like all of these people that Man City have brought in over the last 10 years, none of which were Pep Guardiola's signings. They were all brought in by this director of football. And they rarely miss, do they? They rarely miss Man City. Jeremy Doku's another one. He is an unbelievable player. I mean, how much did they pay for Jeremy Doku? Probably half of what we paid for Antony, realistically. Absolutely mad. Literally half of what we paid for, let's have a look. They paid 60 million euros for Jeremy Doku. We paid 100 million for Antony. Jeremy Doku this season, right? You ready for this? Jeremy Doku has got 10 goals and assists in 14 matches. 10. So he's averaging nearly a goal or an assist every game. Nearly. Whereas Antony, right? Let's compare Jeremy Doku with Antony. I mean, it's just, when I see these things, it just makes my blood boil, to be honest. So Antony this season, my computer's just decided to stop working. Okay, here we go. Antony this season has played 10 matches, no goals, no assists. Let that sink in for a minute. Jeremy Doku, brand new player, never played in the Premier League before. 14 goals and assists already this season. 10 goals and assists in 14 matches. Antony has been here for a year, knows how Erik ten Hag wants to play. 0 goals, 0 assists in 10 matches. And I think this is a massive, massive problem. I do. I think it's a huge problem. And you know what? I would say this now. I think that Pellistri needs to start over Antony. I know a lot of you in the fan base have been saying this for quite some time, but for me, Pellistri has to start. He came on the pitch yesterday, and I'll be honest with you, right? All of the credit went to Bruno. But I'll go as far as saying this, right? For me, Pellistri won us that game yesterday. His determination, his grit to win that ball back, to put the pressure on the on the defenders. He got the assist, didn't he? I think it was a Pellistri assist. Anyway, if you watch that goal back yesterday from Bruno Fernandes, a lot of the credit, obviously Bruno scores the goal and it was a really good play by Bruno, but in the build up to that, all of the pressure, all of the reason why the ball came to Bruno in the first place was because of Pellistri. You don't get that with Antony. Antony either cuts inside and shoots and misses 99.9% of the time, or runs down the wing, does some I don't even know what he does. He just kind of flicks his feet around the ball, doesn't ever do anything with it. No skills ever really actually seem to come out of him, and then he kicks the ball back to somebody. That's all he does. Whereas Pellistri, he looked hungry, he looked excited. Mila says Pellistri plays like a real winger and his mission is to get balls into the box. I'm telling you now, right? If Pellistri plays in that team, Højlund will start scoring goals. I cannot say a single bad thing about Rasmus Højlund. I seen something yesterday. Apparently, in the last 5 matches in the Premier League, Højlund has not had a single opportunity. As in set up by somebody, whether it's Bruno, anybody, nothing. Ginge says Antony hasn't scored a single Premier League goal since his 3rd game. I mean, that's just embarrassing, isn't it? Absolutely embarrassing. So bad. Somebody says, I like the chemistry between Pellistri and Wan-Bissaka. I would agree. What else we got? Somebody says we should have 2 players up front, crosses into the box, and we will turn everything round instantly. I think if we had another good striker, yeah, but I don't really want to see Martial starting every single game. If we went and bought a striker in January, maybe, or maybe even you stick McTominay up there for the time being. I mean, McTominay would be an interesting... He'd be an interesting target man, wouldn't he? Godson says Pellistri won us the game yesterday. Yeah, he did. Pellistri did. He won us the game, and fair play to him. Everyone who's just joined in the last couple of minutes, please do smash a like on the video. Please do subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. We're just going to talk a little bit about this right-back situation. Now, we spoke about this player a little bit a couple of weeks ago, and the stories are coming back round in full swing. So the player's name is Sacha Boey. Plays for Galatasaray, and the story this morning is that Manchester United have inquired again about signing Galatasaray right back Sacha Boey as talks over a contract extension with Galatasaray stall. Now, I don't really remember him in the game against Galatasaray. I know he's a very, very highly regarded player. Plays for the French national team, 23 years of age. I think these are the types of players we should be looking at. You know, the hype ones are Jeremy Frimpong, the Pavards, all of these types of people who are going to cost you 40, 50 million pounds. Whereas somebody like this from Galatasaray, you're probably going to pay 15, 20 million pounds, comes in 23 years of age, offers something very different to Wan-Bissaka and very different to Dalot. And for me, I think we really need to strengthen that area. I think Wan-Bissaka is an unbelievable player. I think defensively, I think he's absolutely incredible. I do. I think he's one of the best, if not the best, one-on-one defenders in world football. But going forward, he definitely does lack a little bit of something. And I think bringing in someone like this or someone like Jeremy Frimpong, who can really get down that wing, can really put balls into the box and create opportunities for Rasmus Højlund, will be a massive, massive boost for this club. Tomsy says Højlund needs to get more of the ball because people are now calling him a flop. I mean, if anybody who's calling him a flop doesn't watch football, because he doesn't ever have opportunities. Name me the last time Rasmus Højlund missed an opportunity he should have scored. Name me the last time Rasmus Højlund had an opportunity where he had any chance of scoring. He doesn't. He doesn't get any opportunities. What else have we got? Mida says, if we have Antony and Bruno and Rashford who lose every ball, every attack, it's overwhelming for midfield and defence. I agree. Irvin says we have to give service to Højlund, otherwise we will lose confidence and end up being a flop, which I won't want to happen. You can't call him a flop. You can't. A flop is somebody who has multiple opportunities and misses. Somebody who doesn't get the ball, that's not a flop. That doesn't make sense, does it? It doesn't. He's a flop at what? He's not what you expected him to do. Pick the ball up in his own half, run past 10 players and score. Like, that's not how football works. A striker, the whole point of a striker is that the ball gets passed to them in shooting opportunities, and then they have the ability to score the goal. And I mean, that just hasn't happened, has it? So Demon says, Man United is all about attacking, and if we are pressing machine, we need to pass first-minded players because the goal is always open after that pass. So many easy goals. I agree. Comeback King says Mason Mount on the wing might work. I'd prefer to see Pellistri, to be honest, for a run of games. I would like to see Pellistri on the right. Garnacho on the right as well. Oh, sorry, on the left it was really good yesterday. You could even do this, right? You could have Rashford on the right and Garnacho on the left. I'd be interested in seeing that. Paul says he scored 3 goals in the Champions League. Yeah, he has scored some goals in the Champions League, hasn't he? I think he's the leading goal scorer still, isn't he? If I'm not mistaken. I might have made that up. He was a couple of weeks ago. Let me have a look. Is he Champions League leading? Yeah, he's a leading goal scorer. He's joint top with Jude Bellingham, 3 goals. I mean, there's about 5 or 6 people with 3 goals, so it's not, yeah, there's Alvarez, Bellingham, Rasmus Højlund, Jesus, and Morata. Let's see what else people are saying in the chat. Somebody says, talk a bit about Garnacho, because yesterday he was our most threatening player going forward. Yeah, Garnacho has to start for me. He does. I think Rashford will be back for the Copenhagen game, and I would have 0 issues with... This is what I will say about Antony, right? Antony should not start that Copenhagen game. He was getting booed by his own fans when he came off. If anybody didn't see, literally, Manchester United fans, right, are the best supporters in the world. Our away fans are absolutely unbelievable. And for our own fans to boo Antony, that sums it up. His performances aren't good enough. He's walking around complaining. Get him off the pitch. I don't care. I know people will say, oh, Erik ten Hag's bought a player and he's flopped. You just need to lose your ego and just drop him. That's what needs to happen, because otherwise, yeah, it's just going to be a problem, isn't it? Mida says, what are our options with Antony? We can't sell him after 1.5 years and he is useless. I don't know. I think maybe some time out of the team might be good for him, just to actually focus on his game. Obviously, he's got all of these allegations still looming over him that everyone seems to have forgotten about. You know, there's still all this stuff. There's still all this stuff about these allegations of domestic abuse and all the rest of it. I think just take him out of the team for a bit. I don't think it's going to do him any harm. Take him out. Give some other people who deserve it a chance, because Erik ten Hag will be judged on these types of decisions, on how he reacts to certain players, whether he brings them in or takes them out. And I think this is a moment where he can really, really show that he has the authority. Ginge says Darwin Núñez has literally 6 chances per game. He misses most of them, but he still gets chances created for him. Højlund has less service than Calvert-Lewin from Everton. I mean, that just sums it up, doesn't it? I honestly do not remember a single chance for Højlund in the last 5 games where I'm like, he should have scored that. He's really messed up. I don't remember. I genuinely don't. Not one, especially in the Premier League. Somebody says Mason Green will be back in January. I don't think so, mate. I don't. Paul says Antony should be 3rd in the pecking order, but on the left, so he can't cut inside. Yeah, maybe. Ginge says, in the summer, I was very against Mason Mount signing, and so far, sadly, been proved 100% correct. He isn't a centre midfielder. He is terrible in the midfield. I don't know where he plays. I agree with you. Abdul says, if we had a proper sporting director, the signing of Antony wouldn't have happened, because just like Gakpo, they both lack the pace or technical ability to play as touchline wingers at the elite level. I agree with you completely. Somebody saying Martial is a flop. I don't really think that's very fair. Martial was all right when he first came in. He's just had loads of injuries and he should have gone about 5 years ago. I wouldn't say he was a flop. I would say Manchester United are a flop for not moving him on at the right time. They're the flops, United, for not getting rid of him, for giving him a new contract. And he's been here for 9 years, Antony Martial. See what else people are saying. Demon says rotating players and playing them in their correct positions would be such a game changer. 4-3-1-2. Fair enough. Leaf says just get Mbembo and Matoma next window and we've got wingers. Yeah, I mean, Rashford's not going to be moved on. Rashford will be playing in that Copenhagen game 100%. And I welcome Rashford back. I do. As long as Garnacho's playing, I'm happy. I think if Garnacho goes on the left and Rashford on the right, I think that would be interesting. Bobby says, how is Martial still at the club? His contract expires in the summer, so Martial will leave in the summer. It hasn't obviously been confirmed yet, but I would be absolutely shocked if Martial still stays here. We've got over 350 people watching. Everybody who has just joined, please do smash a like and subscribe, bottom right-hand corner, if you haven't already. Get involved. Somebody says, what do you think of VAR? I think VAR is a joke, to be honest. I do. Like, the goal that Newcastle scored yesterday, our goal against Arsenal, Garnacho, that should have been a goal. If that was a goal yesterday, ours should have been a goal. Like, it's ridiculous. And the same with our first goal against Fulham yesterday. Last week, Man City, Ake's literally standing in front of the goalkeeper in an offside position and he still gets a goal. So I just think it's a joke. I think the whole point of VAR is to bring back consistency, to override obvious decisions, and they're just literally getting stuff wrong. That it's suiting certain agendas, and I just don't like it anymore. I think ever since Onana in that first game of the season against Wolves, when they should have got a penalty, I think all of the referees and the VAR are just literally looking for every single decision against us, because they know that in that first game of the season they made a wrong decision and it was, scrutinised, and Wolves should have had a penalty and they should have got, a point at the end of the game and they didn't, and it's unfair, and it's just the same over and over again. And I think the really clever thing with Arteta is he came out yesterday and obviously was saying it's a disgrace and all the rest of it. What he's really trying to do is a tactic that Mourinho used to do, where Arteta's taking all of the blame. Everyone's talking about Arteta. They'll be saying, oh, did you see Arteta? Did you see that Arteta interview? How many people this morning are talking about the actual performance of the Arsenal players and that they only had one shot on target? Nobody. Nobody's talking about that. Arteta coming out saying we should have won the game. We were the only team who wanted to win. I mean, he's talking absolute rubbish. I watched the game. I wouldn't say that either team looked better than the other. Arsenal had one shot on target the whole match. For me, that's not a team who wanted to win the game. It's not. So all he's trying to do is literally, as I said, an age-old tactic that Mourinho was so good at, where after a loss against a big rival, a big, another team in the top four, whatever you want to call it, he'd come out and he'd take all the pressure off his players and put it on himself. And everybody's now talking about Mikel Arteta. Everybody's talking about VAR, hence we are here now. But nobody's talking about the fact that Arsenal have just lost to Newcastle and just lost 3-1 to West Ham in the League Cup. They're out of the League Cup. Obviously, they're still in the title race. They're only 3 points off the top, but that's a big loss for them to go and lose to Newcastle away from home, considering Newcastle, obviously they beat us, but we're rubbish, let's be honest. Like, Newcastle were, I think, 8th. Newcastle were on the same points as us. If it was going to be a draw, they were going to be on 18 points. They're only above us because they won. If Newcastle have drawn against Arsenal yesterday, which it looked like it should have been, really, Newcastle would have been on 18 points, the same as us. So when you look at it like that, Arsenal hadn't lost a game all season, and they've just gone and lost against a team who, let's be honest, aren't in the biggest run of form at this moment in time. Fred says, did we miss Casemiro yesterday? I mean, to be honest with you, if we were playing against a decent side yesterday, we would have lost, let's be honest. Our midfield yesterday was an absolute shambles, it was. And I think we do miss Casemiro. I think there's this agenda amongst some people saying, you see Jamie Carragher saying, oh, Casemiro was a waste of money. He was our best player last season. He is a world-class player. I still think that. I think he's going to be injury prone now. I think we bought him maybe too late in his career. We should have got him, when he was 27, 28. Buying a player like that at the age of 30, he's probably going to be good for 1, maybe 2 seasons. So I do question it a little bit. But to say he's not a good player is absolutely deluded. He is an unbelievable player, Casemiro. Pig Teat says, good players who aren't fashion models. Jack Grealish would have cost 45 million if he wasn't so marketable. I don't agree with you, because obviously Jack Grealish had a release clause. Aston Villa didn't want to sell Jack Grealish. Man City triggered his release clause for 100 million, and then it was up to Jack Grealish to decide whether he wanted to move or not. So you've always got to remember that with release clauses. Sometimes players and clubs don't actually want the player to leave, and they put in stupid release clauses thinking nobody's going to pay 100 million for Jack Grealish, and then Man City come and trigger the release clause, So you've got to always remember that with things like this. Obviously, Antony, no release clause. Ajax wanted 30 million at the beginning of the summer. Man United mess around all window and then pay 100 million on the last few days, euros. Like, those are the things you have to remember. That's bad business. Man City decided to pay 100 million for Jack Grealish. That was the price they had to pay, and they wanted to pay it. And I would say that they're probably happy about it, to be honest, because like you said, he's marketable. Obviously, he's English. He's, got this whole fashion element to him. He'll be boosting their brand levels. There'll be young fans, right? Young English and people from all around the world, young kids who love Jack Grealish and, think he's cool and all the rest of it, and will support Man City because of Jack Grealish. But right, I'm going to wrap the video up here, guys. Thank you so much to everyone who's joined me on the show this morning. Please do make sure to smash a like on the video before you leave. Please do subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. This has been Daily Red Devil, and I'll speak to you all a bit later. Have a lovely Sunday, everybody. Speak soon.